The main reason for doing it in the stores because space, keeping temperature control, cleanliness, all the things that are a hassle like I do at home. So we do that. We take that away and we do it in the store. When we get our juice is already crushed, stemmed, pH checked, sugar levels checked, and pasteurized. So it sits in the box for a year if we need it to, which we don't. So that's the first part. So all that work is taken away. After that, it's fermentation. Fermentation is what, a 2-week process? We actually ferment for 4 weeks. We go 2 weeks of primary and 2 weeks of secondary. Wow. After about 5-7 days, they slow down. Those on the other side, I think, are fresher. You can see the pressure in the lids.
So when I come here to do my wine, you supervise, this is what the first this is what that first day I'll pick out my wine, come to you, we'll work this, you'll show me and everything else, and then this is, I put my name on it or whatever.
Yeah. Some folks come back and make sure it's bubbling. I usually make sure it's bubbling for them. We maintain the temperature at the right level for yeast to work, because that's one of the challenges. A lot of folks, when they do it at home, they're doing it in the basement or somewhere, or it's out of the way, and they can't get the temperature right. When I do it at home, I have mine on thermostatically controlled mats, so everything's at the right temps. Here we just keep the temperature warm. The mid-range prices, we include skins, in about a gallon's worth of skins. That goes into here. So that really brings out the body and the flavor. We rack it over to one of these guys. And really all we're doing when we're racking it is we're agitating a little bit. By the end of 2 weeks in this thing, the yeast have gone sort of lethargic, right? So we wake them up again, make sure they dry it completely, get the residual sugars. This thing's totally sugar-free by the time we're done here. See, it starts to clarify from the top down, but it's not really had the clarifying agents added to it. So it's still foggy. If you put that in a glass, you're still going to have sediments. You're still going to see it. And then that's a white. A red would be horrendous. You can't see through the reds, but you would know that much more solids in a red. On the next row, I can show you one that's been clarified. So this, you ask how we speeded it up? These chemicals are amazing. They're all natural chemicals, by the way, but they're nonetheless chemicals. So there's after clarifying.
So that's a Sauvignon Blanc, that's 1:15:13?
Yeah, so it's 3 days. 3 days after I added clarifying chemicals, you can see it's almost ready to bottle. And then finally,
amazing.
So this is how we speed it up, and then we bottle. And bottle aging is really how we do it. And you can see at the bottom, there's absolutely no sediment because what little bit of sediment accumulates here is now gone from the filter. So we get all we can out of it.
How long is this?
So 2 weeks, and then in between this and bottling is when we filter. So we do this, and about 3 days before we bottle, we filter for the folks. So, and then we bottle age. We do oak chips.
Oh, so you give it a little oaky taste.
Yeah.
When do you do that?
We do that at the fermentation. We can do it anywhere in the process, but it's easier to do here because they clean out the oak chips from the cardboard.
That's how you do it.
You've got a lot of surface area contacting with the wine. The other thing we do is
do you have different brands of oak chips or different?
For the most part, we use French toasted oak, medium toast. we use American lighter toast too for some wines, but mostly it's just French toasted oak. And what we'll do too is we'll steep them, and to really bring out the flavors. We'll set them in here for 15-20 minutes before we add them to the wine. That really brings out the oakiness in them.
Wow, that's pretty good.
I know. Better than that, it tastes really good too, And the final stage of our process, where we think we have like an advantage for folks, we don't use many preservatives. Everybody uses sulfites because they have to. There's sulfites in wine, you know the story, right? So sulfites are created during fermentation, and they're also used for preservation. But when we sulfite, we just use a very low dose. So I did the calculations just yesterday because I've been trying to make this argument for my customers, is that, to be considered sulfite-free, you have to be below like 30 parts per million. That's federal guideline, right? Our wines start off sulfite-free, but yeast creates sulfites in the fermentation process, and then we add back a quarter teaspoon per gallon. When I did the ppms, it came out to roughly 35 ppms versus a commercial, which is, remember, the threshold's 30. Ours is about 30, 35. Commercial wines are 75 to 200. Spain or Italy sit around the plaza and drink wine all day, never have a headache, never have a hangover. You go, how does that work? Same thing with our wines. Now, I don't know that it's the sulfites. I don't know if it's the other preservatives that go into it.
The sulfites have a lot to do with it.
I know it's only that we low-dose sulfites. So literally, people with red wine headache. I just did the test this week. See, I used to have red wine headache, right? So I stopped drinking red wine for like 10 years. And so when we made our first batch of this, it was a Merlot. I said, well, let me see how it goes. You don't have to buy volume. You can buy 3 labels of really good stuff instead of 12 bottles of average stuff, right? Because you got our stuff for your everyday drinking wine. That's what I try and tell them.
Well, it's a fun process too.
Yeah, it's fun.
Everybody have.
It's pretty simple. At the end of the day, people think sometimes it's too simple, you know. But I tell them, I said, you're not really making wine; you're making it beautiful, right? So you can see some of the finished product over here. And again, mostly it's the whites that you're going to notice. This lady bottled hers on Sunday. It was very good, but I don't get why people put dogs on the label, but they so do. They so put dogs on. I should hope she's not embarrassed when I show this. She sees it. But we have like 3 people with dogs on the label. Some people put their pictures, you know.
And you do all that labeling?
I think this one's probably one of the most beautiful ones we've done.
Oh yes,
this was a
Pinot Noir.
This is a statue they have on their front porch, and I thought the photo was nice, and they made a bottle out of it. And I thought, well, that's really nice.
That is.
So, and it's good. You don't go to the wine store and set a target at $12 a bottle and end up with $14, $16 bottle average, because that's what I used to do. I'd say, well, that's $12. And then I go, well, that's only 14. Oh, that's only 16. Well, I'm going to splurge. So that's only 25. Next thing you know, I got a $200 case of wine, So,
Been there, done that.
Yeah. So that's how people think. So now I tell them, don't do that anymore. Build a supply, build a little cellar of your own. People need to think in terms of cellars too, because not only if you're making it, you want to age it, but 2, it's just having the variety on hand. Now, we're not saving them a ton of money, because we're still at $10 a bottle. We think we're making much better than a $10 bottle of wine. Plus the side of, the benefits of it being less preservatives.